Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. This week I received some emails from subscribers who claim to have been abducted by extraterrestrials over their lives, and we're going to talk about some of their experiences today. I received these email messages. I'm going to use pseudonyms for both of these people. One of them actually states that some of the aliens that you see in the Turkey UFO videos, as well as in the Vegas alien video, look very, very similar to what he has seen with his own eyes, the creatures that he has experienced himself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so let's get right into it. The first person we're going to talk about here is Charles. That's going to be the pseudonym. That's not his real name, but his name is Charles, and he's apparently from somewhere here on the East Coast of the United States. And here's what he sent me. He says this. For the last 2 weeks since discovering your channel, I've been obsessed with what you've been covering because of my own experiences, especially with regard to the Las Vegas and Turkey incidents, because it looks like I see some familiar-looking faces in that footage and some images, like UB. UB, he's talking about, that's the nickname I have for the one little gray alien that we see in the Las Vegas alien video from 2023. UB stands for undeniable backbreaker, because there's absolutely no way anybody on this planet is going to be able to debunk that ever. Mick West won't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. He's too afraid. Anyway, continuing here, it says, I'd like to remain anonymous but share my experiences with you, as there are many layers to it. Maybe in the future I will come forward, but I don't feel significant enough in any of my two spaces/professions to make that move yet. I have no evidence to what I'm saying at all, but I've witnessed a UFO with an old friend of mine who I don't talk to as often anymore, and I believe prior to that UFO experience I was abducted. To preface, around 2012, I was into studying sleep paralysis, lucid dreams, and out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. For many years, starting from when I was 13 to 14, I've had very strange dreams. My first sleep paralysis experience was being paralyzed, unable to move, and witnessing a black toroidal vortex forming in the wall of my room. I've seen entities standing by the side of my bed, being on top of my chest, and other disturbing experiences like that, which you'd classically associate with sleep paralysis. I've had lucid dreams where I'm able to control every aspect of my terrain and reality within those domains. As for OBEs, which came a year after, I was able to tell what was going on in the living room of my dad's old home. I couldn't do this on a whim, but it came randomly during sleep. When the opportunity was there, I became conscious that I was sleeping, I could then modulate my mind to push for those experiences if I wanted. During my first out-of-body experience, I floated downstairs and was able to see my family watching a drama TV show. When I awoke and stormed downstairs to confirm, there it was. I saw my dad watching the same TV drama I had seen him watching in my out-of-body experience. I told him about that experience, and he confirmed that he's had similar experiences, but suppresses them out of fear of never being able to return to his body. Now fast forward to 2013, after a quick session of meditation where my body began to vibrate, it felt strange, so I decided to stop meditating and take a nap. What happened next was hard to explain. It started off with the strange visions of the future, a glooming mote of hope rising for humanity through the ashes and rubble of a great calamity. Advancements in space technology, free energy, and water distillation/oceanic water sanitation for reversing pollution, etc., as airheads, tyrants, and dictators perished in the face of the human collective species. All of past, present, and future warped into one film and one moment for humanity to reach toward a cosmic level of ascension that it was always destined to attain. I saw myself as largely a part of that in my current dilation of time, and in retrospect, as a biomedical scientist and practicing IT specialist, I feel a part of that trajectory even today. Anyway, during these screenplay-like images being downloaded into my consciousness, which was nothing like I've ever seen before, I heard a static, oscillating voice speak in my head. The monotone voice said, "Beginning experiment 3, 2, 1. I opened my eyes, vision blurry, ears ringing, and completely paralyzed from the neck down. I looked around with my eyes and could barely just move my head. I was levitating over a table-like structure or platform. Around me were very tall beings that radiated light, and upon closer analysis can be described as the mantids when seeing through their apparatuses that they used to paralyze and analyze me with. Tall grays were seen in the background, moving almost in a levitating-like fashion from one side of this brightly lit room to the next. I was too groggy to remember much on what happened beforehand. I slightly remember being kidnapped and dragged by what looked like little UBs, little undeniable backbreakers, little gray aliens. It's still too hazy even to this day. Regardless, what really mattered is what happened next. Suddenly, a shield door opened and I saw a very large blue being walk into the room very intently, with purpose and with grace. It wore a purple robe that seemed to be organic in nature. Its robe had a high collar and a shoulder armor that curved to a fine but slightly hooked point at each end. The other beings, who were too blurry and in the background for me to make out, all backed away in unison as the blue being entered the room. Two mantids, one on each side of me, remained by me as the blue being approached. I felt a strong vibration buzzing in my chest and head as it seemingly glided over toward me. It telepathically communicated with me, ensuring that I wouldn't be harmed. It wanted me to speak to it the way it was speaking to me. It then crouched down and looked at me. What struck me most was its large dark eyes with a blue ring in the center that matched the vibrancy of this being's bioluminescent skin that radiated an iridescence that was similar to what you'd see with glowworms or the shell of a certain beetle or fancy guppy species. Now, on the screen here, for those who aren't watching this and just listening to it, I'm showing these. He sent me some images of AI images of what he saw. There were 3 different images that he sent of this blue being. And it's funny, we just recently I did a show. I just want to stop here for a second. I just recently did a show on wondering if the mantids are the top of this food chain that's here, or are they answering to something different. Anyway, continuing. It had no mouth, no nose, and no ears. A purple organ or gem protruded from its forehead as it pulsated light, and a humming, oscillating harmonic resonance that beamed great wisdom and knowledge into me. Knowledge and wisdom that was too alien for me to grasp. I felt calm, but was still terrified at how lost I was becoming as I looked into its eyes and saw galaxies spiraling and colliding in fractal-like forms within the darkness of its eyes. The longer I gazed, the more lost I became. It was far too strange to explain into words. The being slowly grew visibly frustrated through its facial expressions that I wasn't generating the same vibrating sound in my head as the creature was demonstrating before me. It looked up at the mantids and telepathically instructed them to release me. The mantids looked at each other, looked back at the being, and I sensed a feeling of disagreement, unease, and discontentment coming from the mantids. In that instance, like the flip of a switch, I suddenly could move again. I saw a hologram cuff around my wrist also disappear, which I had no idea was there from the beginning. In fact, I didn't see anything there at all until it disappeared, which is strange. Before I could even process my situation, the blue being then snapped back in my direction with extreme haste. It said, "Look, we know you can make the sound. We heard you make the sound. Make the sound. Don't panic. Don't worry. Just make the sound like you did earlier. We all saw it. We all heard it. Do it." The buzzing on its forehead grew furious, radiating and oscillating harmonic sounds and a buzzing static resonance as it intensified and oscillated faster and faster. It was so intense and unrelenting that the mantids stepped away from beside me as to seemingly stay away from the blue being's resonance field. It's important to note that the sense I felt radiating from the mantids seemed like slight discontentment and fear. These oscillations went on and on for what felt like 10 to 15 minutes. I felt like my head was going to explode. I started remembering how they got me in the ship, and the Greys/Mantids process apparently did not sit well with the blue being. It was furious that I was afraid and not communicating with it, and it seemed to be placing that blame on the Mantids' lackeys and their sloppy work for shaking me up too much during the abduction process. Wow. Let me just stop there. This is a real wild story, I gotta say. Anyway, continuing here, it says, eventually the beaming and buzzing became too intense for me, so I scanned the area in whatever lucid state I could conjure and grabbed something near a tray that was beside one of the mantids while the blue being paused to speak to the mantids in its usual annoyed fashion. I saw what looked like a holographic tool of some sort, so I grabbed it and limply swung at the blue entity as the holographic tool phased through my clenched grasp. It backed away as the electricity flowed through its body in what seemed like surprise. The oscillating and buzzing started beaming rapidly, about 3 oscillating pulses a second, unlike its previous harmonic resonances, and suddenly I couldn't connect with this being anymore. It had cut me off, and before I knew it, the oscillations were so intense that I was slipping away into deep sleep as all the beings surrounded me. I believe they put screen images in my head of Lilo and Stitch characters to cover their faces, which seemed really absurd to me given that they were trying to speak to me through my head just 15 to 30 minutes prior. I awoke in a daze, face down on the opposite side of my bed, covered in bruises. I had to get hypnosis done on me to uncover many of these experiences, as I repressed it for months. I couldn't repress it any longer due to developing PTSD-like symptoms and night terrors afterwards, which I've had after sleep paralysis episodes before, but nothing quite like this level of trauma. I'd wake up kicking and screaming around those times, but the hypnosis helped. Over the years, I had nudged the experience off as the craziest lucid dream or sleep paralysis episode I've ever had. I got over it with time. That was until a warm summer night of 2017 in New York City. My friend and I, who I'll call John, were walking over to his place to hang out. It must have been 11 p.m. or so. Both of us were completely sober, and when we were just turning the block to head to the end of the street where his home was, I pointed out a green orb in the sky. Thinking it was a drone, I began describing to him how advanced drone technology was getting. My father worked with the FAA and drones at the time, so I had some understanding of our drones. As I went on, my position rapidly began to shift as the orb began to maneuver in angles, speeds, and changing altitudes so rapidly that it became evident that this wasn't a drone. The orb then darted down the block toward my friend's house and all the way past that to the avenue. My friend and I locked eyes and began running toward the object's direction. I believe the craft caught suspicion that we were aware of it and tried to avoid our detection. That's when John and I saw the most fantastic display we've ever seen. We saw orbs and spinning discs all over the avenue as we ran toward the block that seemed to head back toward the larger green orb. Jim, I'm telling you right now, it was something straight out of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind from 1977. It headed back to where my block was, and we followed it as the green orbs, smaller orange orbs, and spinning red, blue, and green colored discs hid in a storm cloud. John and I got too spooked out, so we bailed, especially after I started recalling my abduction experience. As we ran towards his house, the UFOs morphed into multiple orbs and vanished within the cloud. The cloud dissipated, and just like that, they were gone. In retrospect, I'm an idiot for not recording that moment. I simply was too afraid. In earnest, both John and I cried a bit afterward. We decided to even draw what we saw in different rooms, compared the drawings, and they matched 1-to-1. Anyway, this story is just a pin drop within a much larger ocean of experiences. For the last 2 years, a close friend of mine, I'll call him Robert, had been urging me to dig deeper into my experiences and accept the reality. It has been challenging, but this is my journey. Try to have more sympathy for the blowhard debunker followers and other deniers. They're clearly battling demons or struggling to come to grips with reality, much like I did for some time on and off in my life. However, screw the ringleaders of the debunkers. I genuinely think some of those debunker bigwigs are evil, lying, malevolent clowns with the sole intent of money, ego, and greed in mind. Keep up the work and keep pressing this Las Vegas incident. It's not saying much, but again, there's some awful familiar faces in that 1 minute and backyard footage. And then he gave me a PS that he did attach some AI images of the blue being, as well as for the mantids and greys, well, look no further than UB, the mantid in the Turkey incident, and a few other entities seen in the Las Vegas and Turkey incidents. Feel free to use this in any future episodes you make, or just ignore it. More or less just venting here. Best regards, Charles. That's a pseudonym. So there you have that. Crazy stories, right? Two different incidents that he's talking about here, and he says there was other things that he didn't get into, but this right here is enough to really start off with, really. And the idea that the beings he was seeing looked like some of the beings that you see in the Turkey and Vegas videos. So that's because those beings are real, right? These are the beings that people have described over the decades, right? Since the 1950s and 60s, right, all the way back since that point, even earlier than that. There's cases we're find out about every now and then, where people saw these kinds of creatures and encountered them. So this has been going on a long time, and that's because it is real, and they just have it on us. They're actually technologically superior to us. They're able to do these things to us. They treat us basically like animals, same way we would treat animals if we're tagging them or whatever. They do things so we don't remember it. They try to do things anyway so we don't remember what they did to us, right? And here's this case is incredible, right? And this is just one person talking about his experiences, and he's talking about these weird blue being that he saw, and this is the kind of stuff that happens to people. These are the kinds of things, and this is why it's hard for people to talk about this publicly. Of course, this person here doesn't want to go public with his name, right? I mean he'll be, how he'll be treated, in the workplace and everywhere else. Some people just don't accept this. They can't accept it because they've been programmed not to accept it. Because of the stigma, the little green men nonsense, all of that stuff, right? The most of the world is programmed to think that this subject is crazy. And I still get comments from people in the comment section. Actually, there was a comment today I received from someone on Spotify. Let me just pull this up real quick. Yeah, this was from somebody named Jay Sharkey 19. He said this was with regard to a recent episode where I was talking about how ancient aliens failed to show any of the aliens from the 1 minute and 41 second long video. So this Jay Sharkey writes, "You sound absolutely mental. The video is not clear at all. So how do you have absolute proof? Crazy guy." See, this is all they have. This is all they can do. What do you do with something like this? There's no analysis. It's just name calling. That's what Mick West does. Oh, this is stupid. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's not worth spending any time on. That's all this is. It's just people who can't accept it, right? So they just call you crazy. You're crazy, right? Who's crazy? Who's stupid? Actually, Jay Sharkey. He's a dummy, dumb, right? What are you gonna do? He drank the bathwater a long time ago. Now he's stuck in a world of stupid. I actually responded to this guy. I said, another interesting, I was commenting on what he said. I said, another interesting example here. It is unclear whether this is disinformation and character assassination or the effect of disinformation and stigma, but it's fascinating nonetheless. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to handle this, some of these jokers from here on out. These people, right? What are you going to do? They just can't accept it, and so all they could do is call you names, attack your character, and that's it, and then move on. You're crazy. There's nothing there. I don't see anything. That's because you're stupid. That's why you're dumb or you're lying or whatever, right? Anyway, that wasn't the only case to talk about here. There was another one that I have that I received from someone else, and with this person we're going to call Thomas. Okay, and here's what I received from Thomas. He says, "Let me preface this by saying that I am not crazy. I hope I am, however. I fear I am not. I have not been diagnosed with any form of reality-altering mental illness, nor do I partake in any illicit drugs or alcohol. I would ask that you please keep any identifiers anonymous." Yes, we'll just say that that Thomas is from somewhere out west in the United States. How's that? "I do not wish to trauma dump my life story onto you or detail every experience. My encounters are rather typical of the average abductee. My father and I have been visited for as long as I can remember, since I was a young teen, and according to him, long before I was born. He confided in me as a young adult that our entire family has been the subject of abductions for decades. However, my 3 sisters and mother have not admitted to any experiences, as they are unable to remember anything. I am able to break the paralysis the Greys inflict on people, though it takes great effort. For me, it happens in one of 2 ways. Either I force myself out of it through sheer will and courage I never knew I was capable of, or my fight or flight response reaches its uppermost peak. These moments are short-lived, as they simply put me back to sleep, not without giving simple commands through telepathy, such as go back to sleep, calm down, we won't hurt you, etc. I no longer fight it. Anytime I am aware an abduction is taking place, I just let it happen and try to go back to sleep. As a side note, telepathy is a strange thing to me. I hear their voices clearly, and it's rare for me to understand spoken speech clearly, as I am partially deaf and wear hearing aids. However, I do have an experience that I believe is somewhat unique. I have been looking for years and asking other abductees if they have also seen what I will describe, but I have not found anything similar. With your vast knowledge of the phenomenon and your audience, I hope there can be some confirmation. When I was a young teen in the summer of 1998, around 3 a.m., I was arriving home from a family trip. I carried my luggage to the front porch and waited for my dad to unlock the door. He and my mother were off in the back of the property unpacking the van and putting things away in the shed and garage. While I was waiting, something caught my eye. I had never seen anything like it before or since. Two small points of light were slowly but steadily rotating clockwise around each other. They weren't balls of light, they were projected like the spotlights you'd see on a stage, only a few inches in diameter each. There was no visible source of light, and the color was difficult to describe. The best I can say is that it was a glowing milky white with a very faint yellow hue. It gave off no surrounding illumination, as if the light was self-contained yet two-dimensional. I watched these lights slowly dance around each other and move across the roof of my neighbor's home. They swept from one side to the other methodically. When they finished with that house, they moved to the next one and repeated the same pattern. I went into my yard to look for any light sources that could be shining on the homes, but I found none. At the time, I wasn't thinking about UFOs, aliens, or ghosts. I was trying to figure out if one of the neighborhood kids was playing a prank with some kind of new laser pen, which was popular back then. Only when I walked down the block to get a better look did I start to feel terror. The lights stopped sweeping over the houses and began moving directly toward me. I backed up quickly, and the lights began to speed up. The faster I ran, the faster they followed. I ran into my yard and looked back. They were gone. Then I looked down, and they were right at my feet. I hadn't even noticed them get that close. I ran to the front door under the porch. The lights followed. I managed to get inside and shut the door. My parents were already inside. I was too afraid to look out the windows to check again. Frantic, I explained what I'd seen to my parents. My mom looked outside and saw nothing, and just like that, the event was over. Rattled as I was, I forced myself to sleep. Nothing else occurred that night. A few days later, there was another event, your typical encounter. I woke up in a panic, and when I lifted my head quickly, I felt a hand clasp the side of my face. I saw it, the being. It still haunts me to this day. I can still see the wrinkles around its large black eyes. It told me to go back to sleep as it pressed my face into my pillow. I was in such shock and fear that I did as I was told. I'll never forget the words I said in response in my mind as I faded to black. I will obey. I think about these events all the time, and I finally have an idea about what the lights were that I saw as a teen. I firmly believe I witnessed a scanning in action, that this is how they find people to abduct and which people to choose. I assume many others like me live with the same issues I have developed over a lifetime. I am terrified at night. I do not sleep. For years I forced myself to sleep during the day and only around other people. I live with a kind of constant flashback PTSD that affects my personal and professional life. I have even refrained from serious relationships because I don't want anyone else to be abducted due to being near me. I have contemplated suicide during my 20s and 30s. My life was an absolute shambles, filled with constant fear and sleep deprivation. I was so tired of being afraid all the time, every night wondering if it would be another visitation. I'll end this with one final observation. I understand this has been appearing in more stories recently, but sometimes I wake up during a visitation and find one of them pressing something into the back of my skull. It's loud and buzzing, kind of like a skull shaver. I wonder what is going on with that. It has been a frequent experience for me over the past 5 years. It says, thank you for taking the time to read this. If you have heard anything related to the light event, please let me know. I am eager to hear if anyone else has had a similar experience. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Now, I don't think I've ever heard anything like that before. It sounds to me with that light, it's almost like if they're scanning us the same way we would scan groceries at the checkout line in a grocery store. That's what it sounds like to me. Maybe that's how maybe they look at us like product. You know, they scan us to see which one they want. You know, okay, yeah, there's one. We will scan him. Okay, we got this one. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe we're like a commodity to them, something that they could just check out at a grocery line. Maybe that's how we're being treated. They scan us from afar, and then that's how they choose who they're going to take on a regular basis. And maybe that's how it's done. Sounds very, very impersonal, I must say, and inhumane. Basically treating us like we're idiots and dummies. You know, that's what it sounds like. But yeah, that's a frightening experience. To get abducted on a regular basis throughout your lifetime, and to see these weird lights chasing you around in the streets like that had to be a frightening experience. And here's the thing: has anyone else out there ever had these kinds of experiences, as well as what he talks about at the end here, where he says that? Let's go through this one again here. He says he says that they're pressing something into the back of my skull. It's loud and buzzing, kind of like a skull shaver. I wonder what is going on with that. It has been a frequent experience for him over the past 5 years. Is anybody else out there having these kinds of issues with these beings when they're getting taken, or during their encounters with these beings? Does this sound familiar to anyone out there? The only way to find out is to talk about it openly. That's what we're doing on this channel. I know there's some people out there that are still wondering, right, if this is all real or not, right? They're in a constant battle inside their minds, wondering if are we really alone, or maybe we're not alone. But you know what, folks, we are definitely not alone. These people here are saying that they've had experiences, right? Of course, could you prove it, right? You can't prove it. These singular experiences, you can't prove it. I can't prove the things that happened to me throughout my life. I just can't, right? But when you put all these stories together, right, not everybody's telling lies. There, a lot of people are telling you exactly what had happened to them with these things, and that's the bigger story here now, right? This is the best part. The best part is like the first person here that we were talking about, Charles. He says that a lot of the creatures he's seen over the years, right, they look like the creatures you see in some of the videos, like in the Turkey UFO videos, as well as in the Vegas videos. That's what they look like, because those are two of the best cases we have, right? Turkey UFOs in Vegas. I mean, there's other cases too, like the Ariel School incident. I mean, it's undeniable. There's a lot of undeniable cases, right? In my mind. I mean, you can't deny the Phoenix Lights. I mean, but the issue is, even with some of those cases, it's really hard to even prove them. But the bottom line is you can't deny them. I mean, when you have 60 kids, like in the Ariel School incident, all telling the same story for over 30 years now, I mean, you're pretty much forced to believe them. They're not lying. This is what happened. There was craft and aliens, and one of the aliens was communicating telepathically. It really did happen, right? I mean, the Phoenix Lights, you had at least 1,000 people, right? Probably more, that saw these giant craft flying around Arizona back in 1997. There's no denying this, right? And there's so many different cases like this. And now, of course, we have the evidence that shows these creatures, the creatures that people have been talking about for decades, right? Now we know, we see them. And one of these people now has contacted me. This is something I actually, last August, I did a show talking about how, this proof, when you have this kind of proof, it should give you like a swagger, right? I was talking like that over a year ago now. About it should give people in the UFO community a swagger that you never had before. Now you have the proof. Anybody tells you that, hey, you're crazy or something like that, you just say, well, hey, look at this, you dope. Like Jay Starkey, you dope. What are you talking about? You're dumb or something? You don't see that? Right? I mean, it's obvious, right? It means you're lying or you're stupid. There's no other explanation for it. But I was talking in that show, right, about comparing UB, the little gray, to the creature, the first creature that Whitley Strieber described in his classic book Communion, right? Here, I'll just play a little clip from that. Check this out. Okay, I'm reading here one of the most famous UFO books of all time, Communion by Whitley Strieber. This is the first edition, by the way, that I'm holding in my hand right here. And the cover, as everyone knows, is very, very famous. This is published in 1987. There you go. Look at that cover. Look at that. Look at that. Huh? Look at that. Look at that. Now then, look at the picture of the frickin' alien. Look at the picture of the alien in the video. Look at that. All right. Look at that. Look at that. See it? And then look at the picture you see in the background there. What are we talking about? We got him. We got him. Where's your swagger at? Where's your swagger? But anyway, I just want to read a little bit from this book where he talks about seeing one of these creatures. He wakes up in the middle of the night and there's something sneaking in his bedroom. He can see the door moving. There was one of those double doors that led into his bedroom. He said it was moving closed. And he said as they close outward, this meant that the opening was getting smaller, concealing whatever was behind that door. I sat up again. My mind was sharp. I was not asleep, nor in a hypnopompic state between sleep and waking. I wish to be clear that I felt at that moment wide awake and in full possession of my faculties. I could easily have gotten up and read a book or listened to the radio or gone for a midnight walk in the snow. I could not imagine what could be going on, and I got very uneasy. My heart started beating harder. I wasn't settled back anymore. I was sitting up, a question just forming in my mind. What could be moving the door? Then I saw, edging around it, a compact figure. It was so distinct and yet so completely impossibly astonishing that at first I could not understand it at all. I simply sat there staring, too stunned to move. Months and months later, I discovered that another person who has had the visitor experience first encountered it through the medium of this same peculiar figure rushing toward her in exactly the way that this one now rushed toward me. Yeah, that's how it happened. This thing rushed toward him and then he blacked out somehow. This figure was too small to be a person unless a child. I have measured the approximate distance that the top of the head was from the ground based on my memory of the figure's position in the doorway, and I believe that it was roughly 3.5 feet tall, altogether smaller and lighter than my son. I could see perhaps a third of the figure, the part that was bending around the door so that it could see me. It had a smooth, rounded hat on with an odd, sharp rim that jutted out easily 4 inches on the side I could see. Below this was a vague area. I could not see the face, or perhaps I would not see it. A few moments later, when it was close to the bed, I saw 2 dark holes for eyes and a black, down-turning line of a mouth that later became an O. From shoulder to midriff was the visible third of a square plate etched with concentric circles. This plate stretched from just below the chin to the waist area. At the time I thought it looked like some sort of breastplate or even an armored vest. Beneath it was a rectangular appliance of the same type which covered the lower waist to just above the knees. The angle at which the individual was leaning was such that the lower legs were hidden behind the door. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but I think this book is great, and he describes what he sees, but I thought this was interesting. A few moments later, when it was close to the bed, I saw 2 dark holes for eyes and a black downturning line of a mouth that later became an O. And what's interesting to me is that when you look at that video, let me pull it up on the screen here for a second. When that creature that we see in the video starts disappearing, when it starts becoming distorted again, doesn't it look like that? I mean, you see it looks like there could be a mouth here. You could barely see it right there. You clearly see the big eyes, right? You could clearly see you can see the head turn. Is this the same kind of thing that Whitley Strieber saw peeking by, through the door, right in the door to his bedroom, and then it rushed toward him, and the last thing he remembered, like the face had the mouth, that small mouth, and then it turned into like a circle. Like, watch this when this thing goes into when it starts to become distorted again. I just want to pull that up. Wait to see this. There, look at that weirdness. Look at that. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a circle there? Just the same kind of description as from Whitley Strieber? Doesn't that look like that, folks? Check it out. Check it out. Where's your swagger at? We got him, folks. We got him. No denying it anymore. So there you go. I think, I'd like to hear from more abductees. I mean, the beings that you see in some of these videos, the ones the way you're confident that they're real. I mean, nobody has debunked to this point the Turkey UFO videos from 2007, 2008, and 2009. Nobody's debunked them. They can't be debunked. You see, there's alien creatures in there, beings with big heads. They're not human beings. They're not. It's not someone sitting on the Love Boat like some debunkers will try to tell you. Basically gaslight you into thinking, oh yeah, that's just people on a cruise ship somewhere. I mean, that's absolutely absurd when you see the images, right? They're alien beings, right? I like to hear from other people out there, other abductees, people who have had a lifetime of experiences with these creatures. Are the beings we see in some of these videos the same kind of beings you have seen? All right, that's what I'd like to know. In this one case here, that's what we're learning. That's what they look like. Just the little gray alien that we see, that I talk about all the time, along with other aliens in both of those videos. That he's seen them. He's seen them in 3D. Let's put it that way. So I wouldn't mind hearing from some more people about this. I mean, more abductees you would have thought at this point would be talking about this. But okay, this matches what I saw. Yeah, right. I like to hear from more people like that. More. If more alien abductees were to look at those videos, the Turkey UFO videos, I'm sure a lot of them have already seen that one. Look at the Vegas videos. Are those aliens that we see in there? Did they look familiar? They look familiar to at least one person here. So I'd like to hear more from those people. Okay, one more thing. I just want to go through the recent Spotify polls. Now we're going to start with the episode, even though I did this one before the last time I did this, but it was only the day after, so there wasn't as many votes at that point. So now we'll check out again. For the episode Theory, the Hopkinsville Goblins were physical NHI created avatars to test firearms. I asked this question: what theory best explains the Kentucky Goblin spree of 1955? Okay, there's 25 votes now. Okay, 0 people say mass hysteria and 0 people say alcohol/drug hallucinations, while 1 person or 4% say owls. Yep, there's always one. 3 people or 12% say it was a hoax. 6 people or 24% say alien weaponry test. That was my hypothesis, my new belief. Another 7 people say 28% say it was an alien psyop. That's another hypothesis that I believed for a while, and it might be. I mean, I'm not right about the alien weaponry test, but who knows? And then 8 people or 32% say other. So that could be a variety of different things that those people are thinking of. Okay, moving on for the episode Alien DNA Evidence Discovered in Some Humans, Scientists Say. I asked this question: are extraterrestrials/NHI inserting alien DNA into human beings? 40 votes so far with 16 days left. Okay, 11 people or 27.5% say no, while 29 people or 72.5% say yes. Sounds like they could be, doesn't it? I mean, that's what it sounds like at this point based on that new study. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. It needs to be peer reviewed yet, but I mean, will it even be peer reviewed? I guess that's the question I have. Okay, moving on. For the episode Aliens Might Be Using Implants to Change Human DNA, former NASA engineer says, I asked this question: are alien implants likely responsible for changing human DNA? 32 votes so far with 17 days left. Okay, 11 people against, or 34.4%, say no, while the majority, 21 people, or 65.6%, say yes. I would have to agree with the majority if, in fact, that's the case, right? I mean, if it's the case. I mean, I guess we need to wait and see, but apparently they are creating this hybrid race, and so that goes without saying that they're probably interested in changing our DNA, and maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's the purpose for these alien implants. So I would have to agree with the majority. If hopefully that doesn't turn out to be the case. I don't want to believe that. I really don't. Okay, for the episode Ancient Aliens Drops the Ball on Las Vegas Alien Incident, I asked this question: is the History Channel a part of the UFO cover-up, or do they believe their viewers are morons incapable of dealing with the truth? 25 votes so far with 17 days left. Okay, 10 people or 40% say History Channel thinks their viewers are stupid, while the majority, 15 people or 60%, say they're part of the cover-up. I think it's probably a combination of both. But if I had to really make a choice, I'd have to say that they're probably part of the cover-up. They're probably looking at their bottom line. It's probably in the best interests of the History Channel to keep this thing a mystery, right? You don't want to, provide that definitive proof to your audience. You don't want to do that. You want to keep them hanging on, like these Bigfoot shows where they never find Bigfoot. You want to keep them coming back for more so they can watch more commercials, more eyeballs on the ads. Okay, moving on. For the episode, humans might depend on the ET NHI presence. Also, reasons people refuse to believe ETs are here. I asked this question: do you believe it's possible humans wouldn't be here without the NHI presence? 15 votes so far with 19 days left. Okay, only 2 people or 13.3% say no, while the majority, 13 people or 86.7%, say yes. Yeah, I have to go with the yeses on this. And it's only, do you believe it's possible? Yeah, I think anything's possible, so I'd have to go with the yeses. Yeah, I do think it's possible. Yes, there's a chance that if not for them, maybe we wouldn't be here. I hope that's not the case. I really do. I don't know. What would you rather? Would you rather that, or would you rather them being here to slowly absorb us because they need a new place to live? I mean, pick your poison. I mean, a lot of it doesn't sound good. Hopefully, they're not here to do any harm. Hopefully, they're here to maybe take care of us and make sure we don't hurt each other. Maybe you got to hope for good things here, right? But who knows? We just can't say. Could be multiple reasons. Could be multiple different kinds of beings with multiple different kinds of agendas. We just can't say. It's all speculation at this point. All right. Well, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.